The third layer to this is blood sugar variability and insulin resistance. Exercise, in theory, should energize us and continue to build on that as the days and the weeks and the years goes on. Morning sunlight, we are told when we are out in the sun that that's our awakening zone. Lower cortisol can support blood glucose uptake, steadier mornings, and less of that stuck feeling. If your blood sugar is feeling stubborn, stress might be the hidden driver. And if you're wearing, say, an Oura Ring, an Apple Watch, whatever sort of device that you may have, or in my case, I have a sleep number bed that is giving me that feedback on my nightly sleep, or any kind of tracker that you may be utilizing. Maybe you've looked at your HRV and thought, what does this even mean? And why is mine so low? Today, I want to explain HRV in plain English, especially through the lens of midlife hormones and insulin-dependent diabetes, because this number can tell us a lot about how much pressure your body is under. And before I get started, be sure to follow the show. Just click the plus button right here if you're watching on iTunes, and subscribe to the channel over on YouTube. That way you get to stay in the loop. You get to watch my weekly episodes when I have guests on here, or if you just want to check out me in here talking. And either way, you get more of a personal approach to the information and all that we're doing here on Type 1 and Midlife. So let's dive in. Simply explained, HRV is heart rate variability. HRV is not your heart rate. It's the tiny variation in time between each heartbeat. And oddly enough, more variation is actually a good thing. So that's why a higher HRV is optimal. So this means your nervous system is flexible and adaptable. A lower HRV score means your body may be stuck in stress mode. Right. A healthy nervous system knows how to shift between doing and resting, pushing and recovering, stress and calm. So that is what we know, and hopefully we know better after you listening to today's show. You're going to walk away with, again, understanding your body, why it's happening, and some things you can do to help you, again, lower the stress, some things down so that we can improve life with diabetes, as hormones are shifting too, right? And that flexibility is what HRV reflects, the calm and the stress. That is really how it is all tied. And how is it tied to insulin? Well, when your body is under stress, cortisol rises. This is not a new thing that we have just become aware of. This is definitely something that is in our kind of our wheelhouse when it comes to diabetes. And cortisol can increase insulin resistance. So if your HRV is low and your blood sugar feels more stubborn, those two things may absolutely be connected. And so why does HRV, your heart rate variability, why does it often drop in midlife? So generally after the age of 40, alongside a chronic disease like type 1 diabetes. And this is where things get especially important for listeners just like you, for women in perimenopause and menopause, again, living with diabetes, because there are multiple layers of stress happening at once. So here is how 3 layers are stacked. So let's start with number 1. This is layer number 1, hormonal chaos in perimenopause. So estrogen doesn't just affect periods and hot flashes. It also affects the brain, the nervous system, temperature regulation, sleep, and even how calm and resilient you feel. So the key point here is fluctuating and declining estrogen, notably in perimenopause. This is going to equal less nervous system stability. The more fight or flight response, this will lower our HRV score. So when estrogen is fluctuating, the nervous system can feel less buffered. Again, it's got less to kind of protect it or to kind of bounce off in a healthy way. So you may feel more reactive, more anxious, more sensitive to poor sleep, less able to bounce back from stress. The second layer is progesterone decline. This equals less calm. Again, progesterone is that calming, relaxing hormone. So if it's declining, we're naturally going to feel less calm, right? It just naturally kind of explains itself. So progesterone, again, has a naturally calming, soothing effect on the brain and nervous system. And as it declines, sleep gets lighter, anxiety goes up, nervous system feels less settled. And that means lower parasympathetic activity, your rest and digest state, and often a lower HRV. So optimally, a good HRV and a good healthy score means that you are in a parasympathetic range. So the third layer to this is blood sugar variability and insulin resistance. This is a big one. Blood sugar swings are a stressor on the body. I think that's something we forget, that the up and down in that roller coaster is obviously causing more inflammation and more stress to our system, not only physically, but emotionally, right? And even when we're used to living with diabetes, years now, I'm coming up on 44 years, the body still experiences highs and lows and the corrections and the variability as a form of physiological stress. So this is really important to know. Now, the 4 key points. So again, we talked about those 3 layers. So it was the estrogen declining, progesterone declining, and the blood sugar variability and insulin resistance that happens when all of this is happening. So those are the layers that just explode in this case. And these are things that we can definitely feel. And the 4 key points is this: high glucose equals inflammatory stress. The lows equal adrenaline release. Poor sleep from overnight glucose changes leads to further HRV suppression. So let me repeat that. So when we are not getting that restful sleep, we are not feeling, getting in that REM high quality sleep cycle. We want at least an hour and a half to 2 hours of that optimally each night. So when that happens, that overnight, it's impacting our overnight glucose. Again, we're under more stress. We're not calm. The body is not relaxing into a state of utilizing insulin and processing glucose accordingly. So the other key point is that more insulin resistance equals a harder recovery. So if your hormones are shifting and your glucose is more variable, that creates a bigger load on your nervous system. So you see this circle that's happening. This really turns into a vicious cycle if we don't really understand what's happening. And number 4 equals, so this is where it all comes together beautifully. When you put together fluctuating hormones, sleep disruption, insulin resistance, blood sugar swings, and the mental load of diabetes, your body is carrying a much heavier metabolic load. That means your nervous system has fewer chances to fully recover. Places we often see that show up is in our HRV, or our heart rate variability. Number 5, this is another key thing that we really need to know about, is the cardiovascular autonomic stress. So the long-standing diabetes can also affect the autonomic nervous system, the system that controls heart rate, digestion, blood pressure, and our recovery. And this doesn't mean you should panic over, let's say you get a low HRV score. It's really feedback. It's really looking at what's happening in your life, what happened in that day or days that led up to that low score, trying to get a bigger picture of, and there's always going to be something that's going to stand out that is going to point to why, again, that you are more in a stress response and less in a recovery calm response. But it does mean that HRV can be a really helpful signal that your body may need more support, right? So what low HRV can feel like in real life? So this is just some ways that we can be looking outside the box to see, okay, well, maybe this is where it's showing up. This part will land emotionally for you as well. So the common symptoms is waking up tired, wired but exhausted. Again, we are tired at the end of the day, feel exhausted, but we are still in this uptake of energy mentally and physically that we can't shut it down and go to sleep at night. So wired, but still feeling exhausted. Higher fasting glucose. This is another big one that I experienced personally when I started to see those higher numbers in the morning. And again, it just gives us a chance to take a step back and look at all the things that are happening in your life and just trying to figure that out. Another common symptom is feeling more anxious, feeling on edge. Maybe your temper is a little flared or more flared than usual. Your hot flashes are feeling worse, or maybe you're just starting to notice hot flashes. Again, it depends on your age and the stage of your hormones and what you're feeling and what that propensity is right now. You may also have more trouble recovering from exercise. So again, the body is not feeling recovered within a day or 2 days, more muscle soreness, tightness. Again, exercise in theory should energize us and continue to build on that as the days and the weeks and the years goes on. But when you're not recovering, and again, sleep is a big part of this, then you're going to feel more drugged down by that exertion that you're doing with exercise. You will feeling more built up. And again, it's all tied to that stress response. You may be feeling emotionally thin, just less resilient. Again, it's amazing how all these symptoms overlap and can get a little confusing as to what to point it to. But sometimes low HRV is not just a number on your app. It feels like I'm doing all the things and my body still feels off. And my personal story, I can be, I'm very task driven with my work and things I even do around the house. And I'm just very much a task driven kind of a spirit. And what happens with that is that I could get a little drugged down and feeling, again, putting the pressure on myself to get things done. No one else is paying attention. I'm the only one keeping score, right? But I find myself, whether I'm working on a project, just doing something that is mindful, but something that takes energy and mind and power, that I'm holding my breath. I don't know if this is something that you've ever done. And again, that is no way to go through something, again, when you are trying to use either your body and or your mind to get you through a task or something that you're working on. Holding your breath is not going to help the situation. I was finding myself where I wasn't taking those deep breaths. And again, I'm going to talk more about some simple things we can do to naturally boost your HRV here in just a moment. But holding my breath, not literally like I was passing out holding my breath, but not taking good quality breaths as I was doing what I was doing. And my stress load was obviously being impacted. My sleep was more disrupted. And like I was saying before, my morning blood sugars were starting to just show a more of a spiked pattern. And I wasn't sure what was happening. I was starting to notice the patterns though. Again, knowing this now. At the time, I didn't know this was happening. Again, we tend to point to other reasons why these symptoms may be happening, but I think it all does coming back to just the center of what we're doing every day, what's happening around us, how our response is to what's happening around us, and how we are nurturing that rather than continuing to just kind of trudge through it. And one thing I've noticed in my own life is how often, again, how I was holding my breath when I'm concentrating, stressed or trying to get too much done. Can you relate to that? It's not always dramatic stress. It's subtle nervous system strain. Midlife and diabetes makes this easier to miss because, again, we have so much to think about and decide on and to make decisions around. And then on top of that, we have life and children and family and work. And again, there's talking about layers. There's a lot of layers to how we have to operate and, just kind of get through this life. And sometimes the stress we need to address isn't the obvious kind, right? It's the chronic stress. It's the everyday load our body is quietly carrying. Well, today, hopefully, this has opened your eyes and your ears to, we really need to stop being quiet about how we're feeling and how we're responding and finding ways, again, to raise our HRV. So finding ways to raise that heart rate variability. And here are 5 simple ways that you can do that. Keep this, and I'm going to keep this practical and, of course, calming. Number 1, and one of the things I was talking about just a minute ago was breathing. So slow breathing, 4 to 6 breaths per minute, especially before meals. I think setting that stage around mealtime, we get to consume amazing food and enjoying it and chewing, and that environment that we are eating and dining in, it's really, really important. And how our body's digesting it. Again, we want it to be in that steady, calming state, not only for digestion, but how we feel after we eat and how our body's responding, and not to mention how our blood sugar is responding. All of this is tied together. So again, taking those 4 to 6 breaths per minute is really, really important. You can practice box breathing. So that's simply inhale for 4, exhale for 4. We can do this anywhere, anytime. I like doing it right before bed too. So you're laying in bed, getting ready to close your eyes, practicing these breathing. That really does help. And I've noticed on my own HRV scores, when I remember to do the breathing exercises as I'm about to fall asleep, my HRV scores are improved. So again, it's a nice little experiment. Okay, some practical ways that you can rate your HRV. Number 2 is morning sunlight. So this anchors our circadian rhythm. It supports cortisol rhythm. Again, that morning sunlight, we are told when we are out in the sun, that's our awakening zone. That's when the body is up and ready to go. And that's a natural way for our cortisol to help support us for the day. So starting with that morning sunlight, getting out. And I spent years walking the dog in the morning or maybe taking a bike ride in the morning to get some sunshine and fresh air. And I always had sunglasses on. I don't do that anymore. I wear a hat just to kind of keep the sun off of me. But it's great to get that sun on your face, hitting the back of your eyes, back of your retinas. And that's just stimulating, again, that natural circadian rhythm. Again, don't stare at the sun, but just letting the sun be there in your presence, kind of the aura of the sun aura. Yeah, I like that. Okay, another simple way to improve your HRV is strength training. I'm a big fan of that. So this improves insulin sensitivity, builds our resilience over time. Again, put a deposit in that exercise bank, keep those muscles strong. That over time really does help. Also, but it's really important to know that recovery matters too. It's not strength training heavy every day. It's 2 to 3 times a week. Know your body, progressively, increasing your weights and the load, but being mindful of how important it is to do and how important it is to have recovery days in between these workouts, again, for your body to do that building. And again, it's going to improve sleep, it's going to improve your insulin sensitivity, and it's going to lower your stress. This is a great experiment too. Try it out and let me know how it goes. Number 4 is prayer and thought download. I love writing out. I do this on Sunday night as well, just kind of planning my week, writing down again those tasks that I promise I'm not going to hold my breath through. And just to get it off the brain and get it down, just noting that we are recognizing what's important, what needs to happen this week, how we can better plan and prepare for it so that we're not feeling rushed or stressed. But this is a beautiful personal touch that we can do for ourselves. And it might be, like I was saying, whether it's an early morning prayers, gratitude journals, the best I can do is get the swirl for God, letting Him fill your heart, fill your soul, and just to relieve you of any sort of stress. It's so important to bring the Lord in to be there and to help support us. And the 5th simple way, this is consistent bedtime, protecting our sleep, so important. It calms the nervous system, as you can imagine, and the low overnight stress load. So again, protecting that sleep environment, our routine, what we're doing, dimming the lights, lowering the noise. I like my sleep mask. I like my magnesium. I like my progesterone. Those are all great things to initiate great sleep. And consistent. I think the number one thing is the sleep hours, going to bed at a consistent time, waking up about the same time. So again, the body loves routine. We know that living with diabetes, but it definitely loves a good, consistent bedtime routine too. And these aren't magic tricks. There's ways of giving your nervous system more cues of safety, right? Just ways to say, hey, I got this. I'm taking care of you. You don't need to be amped up. And I know this takes time, but you can do this. And again, it's about recognizing what might be happening for you right now. I think it's also very helpful when we are just trying to figure all this out with all the changes that are happening with our blood sugar as hormones are shifting. If we can point to something that is physiologically proven and understanding really what's happening to your body and what you can do about it, right? And this matters for insulin sensitivity. Again, the more insulin predictable we can be and blood sugar predictable we can, obviously that's lowering the stress too, doesn't it? So, we want to lower that cortisol because we know when cortisol stays elevated, insulin sensitivity usually goes down, right? That's just that's just par for the course. HRV is in a good, healthy range. The body is often more responsive. So lower cortisol can support blood glucose uptake, steadier mornings, and less of that stuck feeling. Not only stuck with life with diabetes, but stuck in high blood sugar, right? The sticky highs are the all-time worst. And this isn't woo-woo. This is physiology. This is truly happening to your body, something that us women need to be aware of. Another common question that I get asked is, what is a good HRV score? And I think the number one thing that they say is to start where you are, see what your trends are. If you have a way to measure it, the actual HRV score, and then implement some of these things and to see if you can boost that up. And it's amazing what happens when you start to implement some of the bits that I mentioned here that's going to help support. But again, it is understanding what that baseline is for you and then looking at your symptoms. Are you feeling more stressed? Is your blood sugar more sticky in the morning? What is your quality? It's your sleep quality. So those are things to think about that would point you to say, hey, well, let me look at HRV as data that I can look at to help kind of give me that feedback. Because again, it's something that you can continue to look at and continue to kind of rate where you are. But nothing replaces your symptoms. We don't want to feel stressed. We want to have good, predictable blood sugar, no matter what time of the month or what hormonal stage you're in. So again, listen to your body, pick up on those cues. And again, something that is going to be a consistent HRV score and over time, finding ways to boost. Just to share, like I was saying, my sleep number bed does give me a score. I get a sleep score telling me how restful my sleep is. And I will say, sometimes we can wake up and we can look at a score and be like, oh no, I felt like I slept a whole lot better than that. So sometimes you don't always agree with the score, but I will say 90% of the time, the score and the feedback that I get on this tracker is pretty spot on. And one of the things that I continue to work on, my HRV it ranges anywhere from 40 to 50. And sometimes I get lucky and I can get a 60 or 70. So I myself am working on improving mine. And like I was saying before, just doing some stretching, some calm breathing, and right before bed has consistently improved my score over time. And again, we're looking at all the variables, all those signs that things are working better. And the number one thing that's really been good as we speak is my fasting glucose and my overnight glucose and my fasting glucose numbers have been much, much better. Again, less swings, more steady. So very thankful for that. So to me, that's the feedback that I am less stressed. I am more calm and my body is in a happier state when I'm sleeping. So if your HRV is low lately, and if you have a way to track this, don't use it as another reason to judge yourself. Use it as a clue that your body may need more support, more recovery, more nourishment, and more calm, right? And I did give you a few ways to do that. This is one of the reasons I included a full section in my upcoming book, Highs, Lows, and Hormones. There will be a whole section on stress, sleep, hormones, and blood sugar patterns because these pieces are so connected. And most women were never taught how to see the full picture, right? As we were diagnosed, as we're aging, and all these different stages and ages of living with this disease. And you can grab my free guide, Hormone Therapy and Type 1 Diabetes, and it'll get you started before the book is launched, coming soon. And you get to stay in the loop and to pre-order the book too. And I will leave that link right here in the show notes. So I hope this topic spoke to you and maybe it's something that surprised you. Maybe this is an area of your health and another marker. I know we have a lot of data to track and things to look at, but I think this is really, again, one of those physiological things that's happening and that there is in some cases a score that you can get from your heart rate variability and really understanding what it means for you and some ways to improve it. Again, we want to feel our best as we're aging with diabetes. So again, follow me over on YouTube as well. The show is at Type 1 and Midlife. I'm over on Instagram, Type 1 and Midlife. Be sure to stay in the loop. And I'm so happy you were here and share the show with somebody else that you know may be feeling a little overwhelmed and need a few pointers on lowering their stress response. Have a beautiful day.